All right, so we have had 3 services in the new building, and we've had a couple days to kind of relax and reflect and let some of the adrenaline drop down. And what are your thoughts? What are you thinking?
Well, the past weekend, and I really do mean this honestly, is one of the absolute best experiences I've ever had in my life. It was one of the most special moments that I've ever had. I'm a father of 4 and I'm married, so I've had those 5 as my best experiences in my life. But I would say that this was the next best experience in my
Awesome.
life. We've had so much planning, so much work, so much sacrifice that has gone into this moment. And even leading up to it, the 2 weeks leading up to it was so intense for our staff and volunteers, because there is just this weird dynamic that we've talked about where no matter how much you plan, one Sunday you're in one building, the next Sunday you're in the next. And so with all the planning, the sacrifice, all the hours, all the adrenaline, Friday came and it was so uniquely special to come together as a church family. And it just felt different. Like it was so different than Sunday because it really did just feel like our family. That when worship started, it was like, I mean, honestly, I don't even have words to describe what I felt. And I'm not even talking just the emotion. I mean, it was just like the peace of my heart and my life.
Yeah.
It felt like this is the moment. This is so right. When I came up on stage, I honestly was not ready for that. I walked up the stairs and looked out at the crowd, and I had this moment that my heart was so full of thanksgiving to God that He was so generous to us to allow us to have this moment that honestly, I didn't care what anyone else was doing. I just knew in that moment the proper response is I needed to get down and worship.
Sure.
And so I just got down and worshiped. The crowd was engaged, and that night was so special. And then Sunday just felt different. Sunday was, okay, now we're going to have visitors here. We have all these marks that we have to hit. We have children's ministry in operation. We have guest reception. We have a coffee shop, all these different things. And yet, once again, our staff and volunteers did such an incredible job. It felt smooth.
Yeah.
We were able to love on people. It just felt like us in a different building, and that's what touched my heart. It just felt like this felt good. It felt real. And Monday, when we came together as a staff, the adrenaline was done. We were tired, but we were able to celebrate over and over. The stories that we told was just stories of life change, of God's faithfulness. And my heart is so full right now. I feel I'm a communicator, and I have no words to really describe how I feel right now.
Sure. And you and I talked about it a little bit. Our staff, and I felt this way, you felt this way, and I'm sure our staff, the whole staff did as well. But just ready to do ministry.
Oh, for
so
sure.
moving into this building, it was a process.
It was.
There's just a lot. There's a lot that went into it. A lot of volunteer hours and a lot of work hours. And sometimes it's really cool just to be able to work on that kind of stuff, be able to kind of turn off your mind and put together chairs or move more chairs, which is probably move more chairs than I ever thought I'd have to move in my entire
sure.
life.
Yeah.
But and there's nothing wrong with that stuff. But by the time Sunday came around, man, it felt good to do ministry.
Oh,
It just
sure.
to do church the way we do church, and it got kind of be firing on all cylinders for that. It was really cool.
And we had said even going into it like a long time ago, we said I said it to our staff. I was like, I don't want Sunday to be about the building.
Yeah.
Like I want to acknowledge the building because it's a gift from God. So I didn't want to act like, oh, it's not a big deal, because it's a huge
Sure.
deal.
Yeah.
But I didn't want our visitors to come in, people to come in and they think like we're just here to celebrate the building. It was no, we want to love on people and celebrate people. And you're absolutely right. We were so ready to do ministry again. And our staff put in such long hours, and we joked about it yesterday. There really wasn't tension in the sense that we were fighting with each other. But I mean, when you're just so physically tired, like you're on edge, and I think all of us could sense it. We're like, yeah, we're ready.
Yeah, and one of my favorite stories, I was talking to Phil Krause about it this morning. He said he looked over during the worship night and just got to see everyone on the entire staff worshiping.
Mm-hmm.
He said all those feelings of like you're grumpy, you're all working so hard together, It was all so beautiful just to see the people that he just worked so hard to make all this happen. To see everybody worshiping together as a staff and as a family, and then to look past that, to see the church, to see them responding that way, see them worshiping, to see them responding was incredible. We already talked about a couple of these wins, but if you had to just highlight a couple things that you are really proud of, what would you say?
The first would be our volunteer base. I've always been proud of our volunteer base. I've always celebrated it, but I don't have any context. I don't know that I have too many conversations with other pastors about volunteer base. So I've always just thought, yeah, ours is good. But through the process, we had the construction workers, we had the company that works with churches that did our AVL, so audio, video, and lighting, and they've worked with hundreds of churches. Their response to us is, of all the churches I've ever worked with, we've had the greatest volunteer base. And we saw it leading up to it, the weeks. I mean, people were in here doing some really awful jobs. I mean, there were volunteers literally on their hands and knees scrubbing the floor to get marks out, and people were setting up furniture and cleaning stuff because construction was still going on. So you'd clean a spot and then it would get dirty and clean a spot. And I mean, from early in the morning to late at night, there were volunteers here. And then on Sunday, in order to make this ministry happen, there's literally hundreds of volunteers that are needed.
Wow.
I think children's ministry alone was like 140 volunteers for the 2 services, which is incredible. So for me, I'm most proud of that because it shows our staff does a great job in leading, but our people have wonderful hearts of service, and man, you can't put a price on that. That is so beautiful and so wonderful. And then a couple other just wins for us was things like the ministry time at the end of service, people being able to receive prayer. That was really special. And then coming out here into the Commons. At the end of preaching the first service, I was up there engaging some people and talking, and I walked out. And it was a surreal moment. I walked out, and this whole space was full. And it sounds so cheesy, I know it as I say it, but I just wanted to like group hug the room because it was like we've seen this on paper in this room. Yeah. We've thought about it. We knew what we wanted it to be, and then to walk out and go, it is. It's exactly what we thought it would be. It was so special. People connecting to each other, sitting and standing and drinking coffee and laughing, and it was like, I mean, I think we've all been in rooms where there's just energy. It was like energy in the room, and it was like, oh my goodness, this is so worth it. It's so awesome.
Yeah, and you know better than anybody, we put a high value on connection. Mm-hmm. That is something that is such a serious, important part of our church. You've said multiple times that we gauge health off of connect groups, off of how many people can we get connected, how many people can we get plugged in. That's such an integral part of our discipleship process. Yeah. So to finally have a space that is suited for that, where me and my wife walked out of the sanctuary and we were just both floored of people talking and connecting. And that's one of my favorite things about church. And it was never on the back burner at the old space. It just wasn't ideal.
Yeah, the building just limited it.
The building just prevented us from having that in the way that we would want it. So to be able to walk out and to see that, I was floored. Mm-hmm. That was just such an encouraging thing because it was just another example of God was so generous when he gave us this really beautiful space and that it all came together. But to see our church respond to it, and like you said, you see pictures, you dream about it, right? You think about it nonstop for years now. Yeah. To see it happening, to see people laughing and talking and kids running around, and it was just such an honor to be able to walk out and see it. Yeah,
and that's why Friday and Saturday were so uniquely special was every single space, and I'm not exaggerating, every single space worked exactly how we dreamed it could.
Yeah,
we knew how we wanted it, but we were like, oh, if this was ideal, like the children's spaces, to hear Pastor Phil and his team go, yes, it was exactly what we wanted it to be. Connection space, exactly what we wanted. Ministry time, exactly what we wanted. Worship, exactly what we wanted. Even teaching for me, to have really good line of sights and stuff, like everything. So it felt like, the best way I can word it, if you've ever had one of those amazing dreams and then you wake up and you're disappointed, this was like an amazing dream that we've had, and we woke up and it was true. Yeah. We got to experience exactly what was in that amazing dream. And Sunday and Friday night were absolutely special.
It was awesome. So you and Pastor Joe and the elders and the leadership of the church, you guys have put in the same way that we take connection seriously, we put a high priority on that. A very high integral part of our ministry is transparency. That's an expectation that you guys set. It's something that we highlight. It's something that we really celebrate. Is we want to be as transparent as possible. So from that heart and from that place of transparency, this space is different. This is dramatically different than what we came from. And from that place, from that difference, ministry looks a little bit different. Mm-hmm. So with that, I just want to ask the question, how does this change our culture?
Yeah, that's a great question. For us, the foundation of what's important for us as a ministry has not changed. And it's the foundation of what made us healthy before, that every decision going into the new building was made upon that. So what we felt God had called us to do, what we value as a church, when we were thinking toward the future ministry and planning toward it, those things were the foundation of that, which means this building for us is going to be all the things that the other building limited us. We believe that this building now gives us the opportunity to do well. So I wouldn't say that we're changing, I would say that we're maximizing. So whereas before there were things that I wouldn't even describe as unhealthy, that we were just limited in our old building, this new ministry allows for us to do everything God has called us to do because we had a blank canvas. And so we didn't design our ministry around the building, we designed the building around our ministry and what we wanted to do. So I'll give you some examples. In our previous building, we've always wanted to do ministry time during the service. So I would even say it where I don't want someone who's hurting to come into our services and then leave without receiving ministry. The problem was that space was very difficult to give an opportunity for people to receive ministry.
Right.
We tried all these different opportunities. So we would have it during the service, come forward to receive prayer. Well, for people raised in the church, that wasn't as intimidating because they're familiar with it. But people who were not raised in the church were like, no, I'm not going to walk to the front in front of everyone, this very personal thing, and share a prayer request. On top of that, you have a speaker right above your head, it's blasting. So then we were like, okay, let's try it in the back. Then no one went back there. So like we had almost no response in the back. So then we had raise your hand and people will pray for you. That's still one of our values. But we even got people pushed back on that because they didn't want people they didn't know praying for them. And so what we decided was we're still going to do some things that are our culture. But now at the end of the service, we can still do it in the front, but do it in a way that's not intimidating. And it was so uniquely special on Sunday for both services. We had lines of people that were ready to receive prayer. We were in no hurry. We had 45 minutes in between the services, and it was ideal. A few other examples of that. We wanted people to connect. So we now have a space for that. In the previous, not only were our services back to back to back, but then we just didn't have connection space. And so we wanted them to connect, but it was like, connect, but just do it really quickly, and then you got to go open up a parking spot for the next service. Yeah. Here it's, no, stay and connect. And even our parking situation, we're going to continue to fix that as we close on the property next door, which hopefully will be in the next week or two, and we'll open that up right away, and we should never have a parking issue again. But even in the children's ministry, it wasn't ideal upstairs. We're teaching kindergarten and sixth graders in the same room. Well, any teacher would tell you that is not ideal. You can't teach a kindergartner the same way you do a sixth grader. So we designed spaces so now kindergarten and first grade can be in the same room, and you can teach them the same way. Second and third grade, same room. Fourth through sixth grade, you can teach them the same way. And it was hugely successful. So our culture is changing in the sense of like, the way we're doing things is changing, the systems or the strategy, maybe you could say it that way, but the values are identical. Yeah. And so therefore, I think it will be familiar enough to our church that they'll go, no, this is the tree. This is who we are. We haven't changed in that, but we're doing it. I would say we're doing it better because now we have the facilities to do it. The way that we kind of talked about it before, it was like the difference between building a house with hand tools versus power tools. God allowed us to learn with hand tools, a little bit more cautious, safe. We proved that we were able to do what God wanted to in that capacity. So God has given us greater capacity now. And that's what we have in this building. It's not changing our culture, it's changing the way we do what is valuable to us.
Sure, absolutely. And I think with that, some things look differently and might feel differently. So for me, I can talk from the perspective of worship just because that's a big part of my job here, and that's one of my favorite things to do. But the sound's going to feel different. You're going to feel the bass a little bit more. You're going to see some haze in the room, that just adds texture to the lights. And it's just water vapor. It's not a big deal, but
right.
it might make things feel a little bit differently.
Sure.
But the reason why we do that stuff is, and this is why our culture isn't changing. The content of what we're talking about is this exact same. Same values, the message of Jesus, the gospel, that is timeless and that's consistent, and that is, and that we have such a high value for, and that's what our ministry is. Mm-hmm. The way we deliver that stuff, however, is relevant, and that is what feels a little bit different in this space.
Yeah, and I think that, okay, so with our value of transparency, let's address what could potentially be the biggest pushback would probably be the experience in the sanctuary because of the lights. We had lights in our other building. Different lights now, though, with capacity. We actually had a haze machine in the other building, but we have it in a different capacity here. Okay, so that's a question that people might honestly have, and I'm okay with that. They might say, why? Why are we doing that? What's the value of that? Because here's the caution that people would have. Are we going showy? Are we watering down worship? Are we making this about something else? And even there are times that people want to judge other churches and make snarky comments about like, oh, it's just a concert now, it's just a show. So I want to take a moment and just kind of explain to people why we do what we do, because we do think through and pray through what we do. So our vision statement, and I hope our church can say this, okay? Our vision statement is to make disciples of Jesus Christ. So that's first and foremost what we are called to do. We strive to do that. We put two phrases on that is our simple strategy, but it's what defines what we do. The first part is through relevant relationships. So that's why we measure health of our church and connect groups. We want to give connection space. We talk about connection, okay? So we want to get people in relationships. We're constantly taking big groups, making them smaller, funneling people down to get in purpose relationships. But the second part of our statement is, so to make disciples of Jesus Christ through purposed relationships in relevant environments. We want this to feel familiar to people when they come in. That's a relevant environment. It needs to connect to them. So even the decor of our building was designed to be familiar to people. So a person who has never been in the church, they walk through the doors, and we heard this a ton on Friday and on Sunday. People came in, they go, oh, it's so modern. They were thinking in their mind it's going to be like a church, and they came in and went, no, this is like Easton. This is like a hotel lobby. This is like a cool airport that I've been to. This is familiar to me. And so it lowers that intimidation, because there are so many hurdles in church that are uniquely different, and maybe even can use the term strange in the sense it's so unlike our culture. Like, so a perfect example is worship in general is a uniquely different or strange thing.
Sure, absolutely.
You go into this room and all these people are singing songs to someone who's not in the room, God. They're engaging it physically, they're worshiping, people are emotional, and others can come in there and be like, this is strange. So we want every environment to be familiar. So even with the music, that is a powerful tool that can help someone feel at ease. The quality of music matches the quality of a concert they've been to. The lighting in that is familiar to them, it's high quality, and it does not cheapen the experience. It's not what we're focusing on. It is a reflection of what's going on in our hearts. Worship is celebration. It's honoring God. It's giving glory to God. And the lights are part of us worshiping God, saying like all that we have, our talents, our abilities, these senses that you've given us, that you want us to use, like we're using all of it to make this worship experience, which is focused on God, all about God. And so when people go in there, this environment's familiar, they walk in there, music's familiar, it puts them at ease, and they go like, I can connect here. These people are like me. They're not so weird that they're not like me. And we get this. I mean, like, it's people, when they say their snarky comments, they say, oh, it's all about the lights, or it's becoming a show, or it's idolatry, if they want to be really extreme. I just want to say to people, no, none of that's true.
Sure. No
one's worshiping the lights. If I do an object lesson on Sunday, and I have a physical example, no one at the end of that message goes like, I'm putting my faith in the object lesson. It's still the Word of God that they're connecting to. Same thing with worship. No one's worshiping the lights, but they're saying like, I'm worshiping God. I connected to His presence. And so for us, this is a part of our strategy. It's a part of our heart. It's a part of the celebration of who God is. He's given us talents. He's given us senses. We're using them all to engage the presence of God, to bring glory to Him. And so the music is going to be bumping. It's going to be fun.
Right,
it's going to reflect that. Some people might not like it. We understand that. That goes to every extreme. There's no volume we could put the music on that would make everyone happy. There's no lighting we could do that could make everyone happy. So we're doing what we feel God has called us to do, and we're, I say this in love, but we're unapologetic about it. We're confident this is what God has called us to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I mean, I can speak for myself and our staff, and I'm sure our church when I say thanks for explaining some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And we're just so excited for what's coming up in the future and where God's going to take us.
Yeah. Let me ask you one quick question.
Sure.
You led our worship team. You guys finished your album months ago. We delayed the release because we wanted to do it in a new building with a good sound system, with good lighting, with the experience that would reflect the quality of the songs. What was it like for you and the team Friday night being up there?
Yeah, it's always inherently strange. Hearing people sing songs that you helped write is just weird, and whether it be in a big room like on Friday night, that was a room full of people, whether it be in a situation like that or even like hearing my wife walk around our house, like hum a song that I know I helped write. It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's cool, and it's but it's always a reminder, more than anything, just how generous God is. That the team who wrote those songs and our entire worship team, even going past that, that God would give us these songs that are out of our community and are from our community and are based, from struggles in our community and prayers that come out of our community. And to be able to have that moment come full circle Friday night, to be able to look out into our church and see people worshiping God to those songs, to hear them singing those words and to hear them take ownership over those worship songs, it was such an honor, and it was just yet another example of God's really extravagant generosity. It was really cool.
Cool, man. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.